Hello viewers, I'm SB and welcome back to Citizen Sleeper, where today we're buying another vial of stabilizer. I realized, I was like, spend 2 dice to earn 4 dice, pretty good, obviously good, if we had managed to pull even a single Thrill Seeker. Because we didn't pull a Thrill Seeker and had to spend money on food, it ends up being 3 dice that we're paying. But also because that meant we get the stabilizer a day later, it means that we're paying 3 dice to earn 3 dice, which is less good. At this point, because we partially committed to it, it is absolutely right to continue committing to it. We should finish the task. But it ends up not actually being super meaningful one way or the other. So I feel a little silly. It would have been worthwhile to focus on it earlier if I'd really thought about the math. We could have gained dice, but we didn't, so there it is. So let's do this. We haven't done any growth in here yet. I guess I should save working on the engaged ship for a day when we don't already have energy. Let's throw a... between an intuit and an interface, let's do the interface. Dust house efficiency could be massively improved with an automated harvesting system, but the step techs need some help. Yeah, just like, how are you ever supposed to have enough dice for this stuff? You managed to refactor the sensor automation so the system receives better, more accurate data. Unfortunately, a negative here is -3 energy. I guess I don't actually care about that, right? We can bump this up to a 4. I could play it here and bump it up to a 5. The extra point of energy, if we get lucky, won't matter. No, this is the right thing to do. But I'm saying, like, a loss of condition actually doesn't harm us right now because we're going to take stabilizer anyway. So maybe it is better to save this on the off chance of a Thrill Seeker proc. Go here where we probably get some forward progress, but anything less than double steps isn't actually relevant anyway. Yeah. Unless you've already gotten a neutral somewhere, right? Like, all right, so we did get the proc. It doesn't do anything. We go to bed. We take the stabilizer. We are very much out of time. Why did I leave? And we sleep. It is a critical declaration of character that we feed that cat. But Jesus. Okay, well, we have to spend our reroll right away, and we end up with a bunch of terrible dice that we can't use. Cool. Is that the end of everything? Yeah, maybe, honestly. That transfer intercept was real good. Then we throw some 2s at this. Do I want to go eat something first just for cushion? Because we have enough cryo that we could buy mushrooms. I think we want to use the 4 on the other ship. So yeah, let me go buy mushrooms from Memphis. We will hope not to need the energy buffer. But I'd much rather lose energy than condition, obviously. Very harsh, very brutal. Throw a 2 at this, hope for positive plus Thrill Seeker. Get neutral. Please just don't negative. Okay. Neutral plus Thrill Seeker. It works. The docking axis is little more than a shell. Everything that could have been pulled from its interior, every arm not used for docking, has been cut away. What remains is a Spartan void with patchwork flooring that allows movement. Piles of unusable material are tucked away in corners, but almost everything else has been cleared out. You haven't seen Peter since you last spoke, and now you realize that you probably never will. There are plans to be made, escapes to plot, the shadow of Hearth to escape. On the cycle the flotilla leaves, these ships will disperse too, the moons of Ember spinning out on different orbits, and hopefully at least some of them will choose to be scouts for the flotilla. Fingers crossed. The chaos has become a quiet diligence now, as the time for departure is so near. Crews cross the axis from ship to ship at speed, bringing supplies or advice. Perhaps meeting up to discuss travel vectors in hushed tones, or to debate why they haven't left yet and whether they should. Among these singer crews, recognizable for their specialist clothing and often shorn heads, you see the occasional refugee, a paying passenger, or a replacement engineer or pilot perhaps, come from the eye to seek fortune with the singers. Most of the crews have 2 or 3 of these additions, some more, and you can't help but wish that, whatever reason brings them to throw their lot in with the singer crews, they'll have safe passage. You feel a strange attachment to these citizens of the Eye, setting out for the first time. And then one of them catches your eye, crossing the axis with a crew, carrying a large bag and a nervous look. Tala. You freeze for a second. What is she doing here? She glances around, feeling your eyes on her, and catches your eye. Her face brightens immediately. Sleeper! Tala mutters something to her crew and rushes over, dumping the large bag at your feet and embracing you without thinking. What are you doing here? She sheepishly glances at her bag. Sleeper, she pauses. She pauses again, folding her arms defensively. I'm going to the starboard belt. She waits for your response nervously. Well, why didn't you say? I saw you the other day at the bar. She sighs. Do you remember me mentioning my family, Sleeper? My brother? You think back to your Garol-blurred conversations in the back of the Bantian. He came here with me, with my family, when we were little, just after we left Sinza. She bites her lip. He left when we were both teenagers, jumped on some spacer crew heading to the starboard belt. She sighs. I'm an idiot. She shakes her head. And I'm going after him. She looks down, not sure what to add. Alone? She looks at you. I guess so. I really don't know if it makes sense, or if it's the right thing, but ever since I heard that was where the refugee flotilla was going, well, I couldn't stop thinking about him. So, what happens to the bar? Someone will have to run it. She leaves a long pause. I mean, I could ask Francis. He'd be happy to, or one of the others, she blurts out. And of course, if you're leaving with the flotilla or someone else, it'd be totally okay. You wouldn't need to say yes. It's no pressure. It's fine whichever way. I was just thinking... See, what I want to do is tell her I'll come with her. I want to go with her. I'm not sure. Tala nods. Sure. I mean, I just sprung it on you. But, she glances at the crew she was walking with, who are chatting a little way away. There's not exactly much time. So, considering that, she grabs the key hanging around her neck, the key to the Bantian. Do you want to do it? I mean, there's a way in which this makes a lot of sense for us. Provided that we can save the eye. But I sort of wonder, man, maybe our character, the way we built them, would be a good... Gosh, maybe this does fit. I have to feel like with the loyalty that we've built up with her and everything, like the way our character feels about her, the first response is, you're going, well, I'll just come with you. And it's really interesting that they don't seem to have foreseen that. Like, not even like for you to be able to say it and then Tala to give you a reason why that can't happen or she doesn't want you to or whatever. Yeah, it's weird. I kind of do want to do it now. Yeah, yes I do. Tala leaps forward and embraces you again. Thank you, Sleeper. I couldn't be leaving it in better hands. She pulls the key from around her neck and places it around yours as if presenting a medal. Remember to lock up, especially the back, and remember to empty the still if you're leaving things closed for a few cycles. And she stops herself. I won't be gone forever, of course. She blinks away a tear. I can come back and check in. Maybe once I find my brother. She pauses, unable to finish that thought. She smiles at you, and you can see the weight lifting off her shoulders, her eyes already drifting toward the crew, the ship, the next big thing. She's ready. I better be going. She nods at the crew nearby. Not a good start to keep my guys waiting. She lifts the bag onto her shoulder. She looks down the curve of the eye toward the overlook. Thanks again, Sleeper, for everything you helped me with. She nods. I wouldn't have been able to leave if I hadn't made things work here. She adjusts the bag. Dad wouldn't have let me. Yeah, I'll see you around, Tala. She nods. I hope so. Then Tala turns, heading back to the crew who will carry her to the starboard belt. You watch her go, and despite the departure, it's hard to feel sad about Tala. You know her energy will carry her forward, and you hope her brother is somewhere on that bright path. You hold the key in your hand, the metal still a little warm from Tala's body. You turn it over in your fingers, thinking about how it feels like a tool and a burden. You can still lock up and leave, you figure, but now that will feel like breaking something fragile. And if you stay, well, who knows what this little metal promise might grow into. Yeah, shit, now I really want to stay. Okay. There's so few cycles left to fix things, and we still have no idea whether or not what's her face is even gonna, or what's their face is even gonna come through for us. Okay, positive outcome with the transfer intercept is like the best we could have hoped for there. I don't think it's smart to spend the 2 here. Throwing that 2 in there feels like really baiting danger. But what do we do with it? I could just gain a bar of energy. I mean, it makes more sense to go work at the bar with the 2, because that should give us enough with the transfer intercept. It should give us the money to buy mushrooms one more time. I do feel like this text maybe should have been changed, but whatever, it's fine. Please don't get the negative outcome. Alright. Yeah. Alright, back across. If we need to buy mushrooms, we can buy mushrooms now. But yeah, it's gonna be the last cycle, like, alright. Yeah, nothing for it. We are trying hard. This is just, it's a lot of dice. Criminy, and they have no interest in taking it easy on us. Alright, come on. 2 positives in a row. Alright. So now we only need one of these rolls to come up good, and none of them did. Please just show me the positive. You fucking... We're gonna take a neg here, aren't we? Okay, 75% chance this finishes it. Okay, and we got our 5 cryo. You sit in one corner of the dust house and inspect your work. This dust house, the one where plants from the greenway and some of the steppe species intermingle, has become your favorite. The moss and dust sharing the space in curving terraces. The pale knots of steppe silk freckled with yellowing lichel symbiotes. It is a hypnotic arrangement. You look down and see the intertwining of fungal threads and dust-caked roots, and feel a little glow of pride at what has been achieved. You look around at the hybrid dust house, at how the steppe silk knots help provide a strong base for fungal and lichal growths. You know, like the way you might have before. How the different species of steppe tubers feed the soil with nutrients that help herbaceous greenway plants thrive. A garden is a kind of legacy, something that will be passed on to those who will come to tend it in times to come. You wonder who that will be. You turn and leave the dust house, cycling through the protective lock, back into the cool quiet of the ship. Aki is waiting for you. It's beautiful. She's looking through the observation window and the green reflects in her eyes. The plants look happy together. You stand with Aki, gazing over the contents of the dust house, neither of you knowing what to say. You both sense the moment leaving you, and that sucks all the oxygen out of the room. So you stand shoulder to shoulder, looking at the ecosystems of her home and your home entwining, and try to hold on to the moment a little longer. That's not really this is not a proper use of this phrase, I don't think. She breaks the silence first, and you realize the moment is over. Are you leaving us? For now. Aki sighs. The first of many goodbyes. She suddenly embraces you, wrapping you in her layers of rough cloth. She pulls back. I wish you a steady step and a clear path. She smiles. A farewell from my world. I wish you the same. She glances away, and before the silence can descend on you both again, she slips into the dust house, cycling the entrance lock. You watch for a moment longer as she walks into the ecosystem, crouching to inspect some fruiting bodies, and then you're gone, before the thoughts of escape and home gather once more. Okay, well, we have an upgrade point. Can't really do anything with it. And... and there's just nothing to be done? Peak doesn't contact me, or... because, right, Peak said we wouldn't be able to move on until everybody was ready to go. And now everybody's ready to go, so... yep, nothing happening up at the hub. That's just the hunter nest thing. We don't have any encrypted keys. So I guess... yeah, another hunter nest. I guess we could just work at the bar again. Right, like the only thing that's actually valuable for us to do at this point is to gain money or energy or stabilizer, and the only reason gaining money is valuable is because it lets us do the other things. Yeah. It's weird that nothing happened. I don't really know what to make of it. Alright, positive outcome. Pretty cool, I guess. And then we go and we rest. We feed the cat again. I will never stop feeding the cat. One more time we feed the cat. Okay. Get a 20% discount on crackers. Like, I'm not going to take advantage of it? Come on. I guess let's see what happens now. Peak slate chirps in your pocket. You take it out. A message. We're too late. The flux comes now. I'm freeing Gardener. Peak. It takes you a minute to process the message, even though it's the only thing that possibly could have... anyway, Peak is making the connection whether the eye's ready or not. Your head swims with the implications. You better get to the Greenway side of the Founders Gap as soon as you can. I didn't realize that, Peak, this would be a thing that you could just trivially do at any moment. Because if it was, then why didn't you... okay, it's fine. Whatever. You rush to the entrance to the docking tunnel for the Founders Ferry, but Peak is nowhere to be seen. You look around, desperate, knowing Peak could be reconnecting the Greenway and freeing the Gardener to counter the Shadow Protocol at any moment. Then you see it, a trail of wires leading down into a ragged, half-crushed corridor that descends into darkness. You poke your slate and a torch flicks on, lighting the way ahead. You descend through layers of the eye, the silence and darkness a suffocating presence at every step. Then you see it, a faint light ahead. Peak. I think that one of the silliest, anachronisms, and, English has a lot of weird colloquialisms and whatever, but particularly British English has a lot of, really weird anachronisms, and calling all lights torches is, in my opinion, by far the silliest. They turn in the corridor as they see you arriving, a tense look on their face. We have to do this, Sleeper, even if we aren't ready. Peak holds up a hand. I hope you aren't here to stop me. Why would I be here to stop? What the fuck are you talking about? I'm here to help. This is, the only plan. And we, prepped for this as much as we could. This is so out of nowhere. It's almost like a Peak from an alternate universe. Peak exhales, relieved. Come on, then. They move down the corridor. We have to do this now before the flux hits. I had to hunt all over this part of the eye to find the point where the connection was broken. I'm trying to think, have they given us any reason that we wouldn't want to do this? Is there any reason that we would actually want to stop Peak from connecting the thing? I don't think so, right? In theory, the Gardener could do something weird, maybe. But, we don't even know what that would be. Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, and it super doesn't make sense for Peak to be on edge about it all of a sudden. I had to hunt all over this part of the eye to find the point where the connection was broken. They run a hand along the buckled metal of the wall, stooping under the angled ceiling. This hole, the gap, got knocked in the eye when Solheim collapsed. It's impossible to tell who did it, but my guess is they tried to scuttle the eye. If Solheim couldn't keep hold of their fancy new station, well, no one could. Peak ducks through a fractured passageway with hanging wires like vines. So this place has always been on borrowed time. I've managed to weave together the old connections and run a new patch down to where the main line still runs through the remaining ribs of the rim. They smile. Just like keeping those old XPR platforms running. Ash would be proud if she'd bothered to help. As Peak goes quiet, the corridor opens out into a wider, twisted passage, with compartments on either side thick with wiring. Here, this is the connection point. You can see where Peak has levered off a panel and hooked up a thick cable to the existing hardware. As thick as a tree trunk, it snakes off into the dark ahead, its yellow rings making it look like some huge and exotic serpent. Or, like a tree. Okay, so what now? Now we make the connection. Peak pauses. You both stand there, staring at the point where the new cable meets the old one, the ends separate, fitted with multi-pin male and female connectors, and braced inside a metal framework with a scissoring mechanism. Bring them together, seal them, and the Greenway will be connected to the rest of the eye for the first time in decades. Peak shifts their weight onto one hip, pushing their hair out of their eyes. I feel like this should be more momentous, like there should be some ritual or ceremony. They pause. Or someone should stop us from doing this crazy thing. It isn't crazy. Peak nods. I mean, I'm not being funny, Sleeper, but this whole thing is crazy to me. Peak shakes their head. Leaving Hawthorne with Ash, joining the flotilla, coming here, meeting you, the Flux, the Shadow, everything. They laugh a hollow laugh. So I suppose this is at least consistent with all that. They take a deep breath. Okay. They look at you with mild panic. They hold both sides of the supporting framework, ready to scissor it closed. Here we go. Peak wrenches the framework closed, and the connectors thunk together with a sound that echoes down the ruined corridor, into the dark on both sides. Both you and Peak wait with bated breath, unsure what it is you're waiting for. Do you expect the eye to suddenly stop spinning or lurch on its axis? For the power to go out or a shock wave to run through the corridors of the rim? You meet Peak's eyes and suddenly they burst out laughing. What are we waiting for? They put a hand to their forehead. I feel like we just planted a tree and are expecting it to burst out of the ground. They shake their head. But you feel it. You feel it flowing like a stream that has been released from a cave and rushes out into the sunlight, crystalline and clear. You swear you can hear it running in the wires, like water, like rain, like steam. It doesn't roar or rattle, but it rustles and writhes there like liquid roots. Peak sees the look in your eyes and stops laughing. You can see it, can't you? You can't see it. Not with your eyes, at least. But it is everywhere. And now it's out, it can't be put back in. That much is clear. You imagine the rim of the eye like a sponge, like soil, soaking up the gardener and their chorus, the gaps filling with a burbling, constant growing life. Peak stares at you, waiting for something, anything. Yeah, something's changed. I don't really know the gardener is free. I don't want to. I'm going to say this. This we know is true. Peak looks concerned. They close their eyes. They go to speak, but the words fail them. Suddenly, Peak's slate chirps. They jump and scramble for it, almost dropping it in the process. But when they stare at it, a look of confusion crosses their face. Well, what happened? Peak's mouth falls open. It's Ash, they swallow. She's leaving. They look at you with panic. We knew that already. What? Why are we... I only know that because you told me that. You're the source of that information. Before you can speak, they've turned away and are moving back up the passageway, back toward the entrance. Do not shout anything. Follow them. I guess stay silent, but stay silent while following them. They don't turn and don't respond. As you watch their silhouette, lit by their slate's torch, disappear rapidly around a corner. And you watch their silhouette disappear rapidly around a corner. You take out the slate Peak gave you and turn on the torch. The wires all around look like pale roots in the harsh light, and you turn away from them. They're gardeners now. You work your way back through the corridors, retracing your steps. You imagine Peak, panicked, running towards the cordon, realizing that their greatest fear has come to pass. You wonder if they'll be able to persuade Ash to stay. Again, they told us very explicitly that she was packing, and once she gets her mind set on something, there's no way to stop that. So, like, that's what that meant. That's how I took it when we had the conversation. And it's also very clearly what they meant by it. Okay. If Ash is going, you think, then the flotilla must be leaving too. The thought makes you shiver in the darkness, and you push it away. You're not ready. You focus on avoiding the hanging wires, the low ceilings, and make your way back out into the lit corridors of the Founder's Ferry dock. This is kind of nonsense too, like, all of a sudden we're shivering, like, we know, the flotillas, we were just helping them get ready for leaving, and we decided what to do about it, like, yes, I am ready. Castor is waiting for you. I really should just be carrying a gun. He holds up his hands. Now, Sleeper, no need to fear. He raises his eyebrows. I understand now it was my mistake to try to force you. A miscalculation. I'm gonna stay... He's gonna make his pitch either way. Let's just let him do it. I won't hold you here, Sleeper. Castor stands to the side. But I wish to speak. We absolutely just bail on him, right? Fuck him and his whole deal. I know what I'm doing. There's nothing Castor can say that you want to hear. He speaks for Senate Stat, and they have no hold on you. You approach Castor. As you approach, he speaks quietly, an urgent whisper. I do not wish to see you lost. You are of great value, if you ever want to see that realized. You push past, ignoring him, and his voice fades. The last you see of him is his slow nod, perhaps a mark of resignation, or just another deferential gesture aimed at manipulating your response. It doesn't matter either way. You're done with him. You head towards the cordon, Peak and the flotilla in the forefront of your mind. Yeah, I mean Tala and the bar, really, but Peak and the flotilla, I am thinking about them. You arrive into chaos at the cordon. The final shuttles are leaving the ramshackle docks that have formed along the edge of the gap during the flotilla's stay. As they do, groups of evacuees push on board, hoping to be among the final people to escape from the Eye. The fear created by the Flux event became a series of rumors, and those rumors have driven many out of their homes. Others have staunchly doubled down on their position on the Eye, refusing to accept any gossip of a second collapse. You're unsure what you think. Is the collapse a certainty? Well, I've sort of thrown my chips in on one side of it. Will Peak's actions this cycle have changed anything at all? You're tired of these questions, and instead set out to look for your friends. You quickly spot Peak and Esh at the far side of the chaotic bay. You quickly make your way through the crowds, slipping between the gaps and the rushing evacuees, stepping over bags and luggage. Progress is slow, but as you approach, you can hear their voices over the crowd. You try to push closer, but there are many evacuees gathered around them in their shuttle. You've made your decision, Peak, and it puts you against me. Ash is standing with one foot on the boarding ramp while Peak argues with her. The evacuees are eyeing them, eager to intervene, but intimidated by Ash's evident strength and attitude. Ash, it doesn't have to be like this. Peak looks desperate, tear tracks already on their cheeks. We can find a way. Ash shakes her head. I have always protected you, Peak. I've taken you under my wing. But I understand that you are not mine to control, and you've chosen to be here and not with me, despite everything. I've chosen to stop running, Peak cries out in frustration. You can choose to stop running too. We can stay here and try to live. Don't you remember what it feels like to live, Ash? Ash turns away. I remember what it was like to live on Hawthorne, what it was like to be worried for your safety every cycle, to live under the control of my mother, of the administrator, to work to maintain something that no one wanted, no one needed, so that our corporation could maintain a foothold in this system. You talk as if this place, the very same system, is any different. What is there here but the same grind for other masters, for employers, administrators, for those who gain from our struggles? There may not be a corporation controlling the Eye, but there is control. There is power in action here. So what then? Peak shouts. You run from anyone or everyone who could ever be close to you in search of freedom, in search of some perfect place where no one has power over you. Peak is crying openly now. I want to be part of something, Ash, even if it is broken and suffering, even if it cannot be free. Ash pauses and takes a deep breath. She nods, her eyes closed. This isn't Hawthorne anymore. We aren't tied by our childhood or by our shared need to escape. We're both just people in this system. She opens her eyes. I release you, Peak. You're free of me. Ash, please. They hold out a hand. There is a life here if you want it. Ash turns and smiles at Peak, her eyes wet now too. Then you live it for me, Peak. I can't. And she climbs up the boarding ramp, the evacuees taking their chance to climb on board too. You watch as the shuttle closes its ramp, lifts off, and leaves the bay. The crowds are dispersing now as they get onto shuttles or say their goodbyes and move back into the main part of the cordon. You push past the last of them to reach Peak. Peak doesn't turn as you come closer. Sleeper. Ash is gone. I don't know about you should go too. I feel like Peak has made their choice, right? Like, they could easily have resolved the problem they were just having by saying, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm with you. They want this. They want to stay in a place and find a home more than they wanted that. And the only thing to do is to honor that, right? That said, I don't feel the need to step in this. Stay silent. They'll turn to face you. They turn to face you. I'll miss the Briar, but she'll serve Esh well, I know that. Sleeper! The shout takes you by surprise, and as you turn, you see Saul coming across the bay toward you, the last 2 shuttles loading up behind him. He reaches you, his suit hissing as he does. I can't believe you'd make an old man run across this bay to get to you. He pauses to take a breath. The Singers have gone. They left at the start of the cycle. They broke away from the flotilla. You smile as you think of Tala safely cradled within one of those Singer ships, on her way to the starward belt, and hopefully a reunion with her brother. Godspeed, Tala. What are you smiling at? Saul interrupts your thoughts. They've forced our hand. We have to leave now. Saul shakes his head. If we follow close enough behind, maybe they'll end up being our scouts anyway. I reckon any hostile spacers out there will give them a wide berth. The Pilgrim Seed will need a little time to make our way out of the cordon, but I'm heading back now to get her started. Thankfully, the step ships are sticking with us, so we'll be plenty well supplied for the journey to the belt. He pauses. Anyway, I didn't plot all the way over here to tell you that. Really? That seems like an insane thing to spend time saying if that's not why you came over here. Saul looks between you and Peak with a raised eyebrow. It's now or never, Sleeper. I'm good to my word and I kept a berth for you, but this is your last chance to take it. He scratches at his beard. Make a call. You glance out at the flotilla beyond the bay, beautiful in the light of Helion's sun. You think of the long journey to the starward belt, of the people inside the Pilgrim Seed, of the possible futures that await. Then you think of the people here on the Eye, of Peak beside you, of the Bantian, of Tala and the key that still hangs around your neck, of promises and possibilities. Yeah, I think we sort of cast our die already, right? We're staying. You open your mouth to speak and realize this is the final time you will make this choice. You have to be sure. And yet, no, I'm staying. I picked already. You say the words, and the moment you do, the weight of it all seems to descend on you. You stumble a little, and then stand straight, refusing to be crushed. You feel a tightness in your chest, and a haze blurring your thoughts. Saul nods. Well, good luck, he sighs. You'll need it. He grips your shoulder and meets your eye. In the haze, his pitted and rough hand feels so real, so detailed that it grounds you. That's such a weird thing to describe it as detailed. And then it is gone, and Saul goes with it, quickly moving to the waiting shuttle. As he does, you watch, unable to speak, your whole body pulsing. And then another hand falls on your shoulder, and it grounds you once more. You turn to see Peak's bright eyes. Let's go, Sleeper. You nod, and seeing how unsteady you are on your feet, Peak puts an arm around you and steers you toward the entrance to the bay. As they do, you hear the roar, feel the wind as the shuttle lifts off and angles toward the flotilla. You don't turn. Instead, you keep your head down and focus on each step. As you do, you feel Peak beside you, holding a little of your weight, and you holding a little of theirs. This is how it will be for many cycles, after you both leave the bay and head back into the Eye. It's a little strange because it's like, it makes sense for Peak, right? But we never had any investment in leaving. There was uncertainty, but it wasn't like I really thought I was going to do this and now I'm crushed as all of these potential futures close off to me. It was like, I really have no idea what I'm going to do. And then an answer presented itself, and it was really the only one that made sense, and it had nothing to do with leaving. So this text, I feel like, is making a big, weird assumption that there's absolutely no reason to make about how dedicated you were to leaving. Especially since we never said. Yeah, I don't know. Very strange. You will both hold things for each other, remind each other of the choices you made, remind each other why it is important to keep going, despite the moments when it seems impossible. you will keep each other going. His support... So, we're not given explicit pronouns, right? We don't know if I've now completely forgotten their name. Peak. We don't know if Peak is like a they, he situation. We do know that Peak was described exclusively using the they pronoun for the first 2/3 of this story. And the he definitely felt like a typo at first, but now it's happened like 4 times. And it just sort of makes me wonder if like the writer legitimately forgot which set of pronouns they were using. Like, I don't know. There is such a sloppiness to the writing in these expansion chapters that it's really hard to feel like this has intent, because it's just like it would be so in character for this to just be another thing that, gosh, an editor would have caught this, right? I really don't know what to make of it. Because moments after you leave the cordon, the second flux event will hit. The eye will lurch into darkness, and those old enough to remember the first will think this is a second collapse. The free spoke will be knocked off the power grid, the low end will go dark, the greenway will start venting oxygen. The world will seem to come apart around you. And yet, somehow, the eye will persist. Systems will resist total collapse in ways that will seem inexplicable to many, but to you and Peak they will signal the awakening of a new force within the station. That new force will bring with it new challenges and new possibilities in equal measure. Strange growths will be reported all around the station in the wake of the flux event, fungal crusts pushing through pipes and wiring. The eye will go wild and fecund, becoming a station of increasing unpredictability, prone to a seasonal rhythm of spore clouds and sudden growth spurts. There will be a strange and unsettling beauty to this paradigm shift, as the greening of the station turns it from a corporate ruin to some altogether new assemblage of biological and mechanical structures. But in time, the green tide will recede a little, and a truce will be formed between the eye's inhabitants and its strange fungal protector. And as this new era consolidates around the station, you will find yourself in the Bontion most cycles, working to keep the place alive. The cycle where you invite Emphas to come make use of the kitchen will go from a one-off event to a regular occurrence, and soon the Bontion will be filled with spacers eager to try the best preparations of the station's now abundant mushrooms. And on occasion, after a long shift at the Bontion, you will hear the sound of the stray mewling, and you will crumble up some food and sit and watch the cat eat as if it is the only thing in your world that matters. I love the fact that it made it into the ending. However, into all this newness, the bad old ways will still intrude. Senate-Stat, frustrated by the eye's resilience, will begin to send more physical threats, and supply ships and traders will suddenly stop arriving, stopped by a blockade of corporate militia. Life on the eye will be punctuated by wide-channel broadcasts from Senate-Stat, stating legal precedents and quoting deeds of ownership, staking a claim on the system. Meanwhile, Havenage will consolidate their power around the hardline group led by Kemp, but this will push them further from the people of the Eye. As they decay, new forms of station administration will rise, though the hardliners will persist as a dangerous force. As the cycles roll on and the threats gather, new broadcasts will join them, sent by Conway Extractions, making counterclaims on assets within the Helion system. And many on the Eye will grow quiet, losing their appetite for debating these political machinations as they tilt inexorably toward a corporate war. And ever on the Eye will spin, growing now in strange ways, haunted by strange new growths, and hosting cultures of increasing resilience. As the Helion system descends into crisis, you will find comfort in the fungal patterns, the familiar conversations, the spices and the smells that will accumulate around you as your body continues its unavoidable decay. They settle around you like a veil, and in time it will be impossible to see the eye without seeing its many variants and versions, pasts and potential futures. And this masking of the world will mark your approaching end. In one cycle far from now, that accumulation of memories, of tastes, of people and places and moments will be the last thing you let go of. But for now there is only you and Peak, arms around each other, walking slowly out of the bay. Two figures born of crippled systems linked together, continuing despite your origins. And in this frozen moment you focus on only the next step, because that is the only way you have learned to persist. And to persist is to believe that a future, any future at all, is possible. Okay, so I have some thoughts, obviously. It definitely feels like... I hate doing this live. It is so nerve-wracking to try to compose your thoughts with like any degree of nuance live. So a thing I want to be careful about here. I'm gonna say that I feel like in this expansion, the characters and the issues, I feel like, take on too obvious, too unsubtle of a sort of like a morality play vibe. Like it's really like written in crayon what the themes are on everything, like a political cartoon, right, with all the capital letter text on everything, so you can't possibly miss what things are supposed to represent. And I don't want to say that I don't think the base game did that at all, because that stuff exists to some extent in the base game, but I do feel like it's much subtler there, or maybe subtle isn't even the word I want, but like it blends with the world there in a way that it feels less intrusive. It doesn't, I don't know. It's hard to, hopefully what I'm trying to say here is coming across in some way. And like I said, I think that the quality of the writing in the expansion episodes is lower, just like on a mechanical level, just like the grammar is worse. The editing is not present. And I don't know, what's behind the scenes, what's going on with that. It doesn't matter hugely, I guess, but it is another thing that's kind of intrusive, right? It is another thing that kind of like grabs you and pulls you out, because you have to sometimes stop when reading a sentence and go, wait, what the fuck is supposed to show me? Circle the predicate for me here. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it as much as the base game. I also am a little confused about the Celine thing. Like, it's possible that had we chosen to be nicer to Celine, try to play along with her more, she might have had more of a place in the plot. But like, she was so obviously, you see this a ton if you interact with people in, if you talk politics, or if you watch people talk politics on social media at all, right? She is this person who tries to make arguments of the form, like the form is always, be reasonable, don't ask for so much. Arguments that basically always come down to some form of appeasement. And it's difficult to tell with some of them whether they are themselves like hardline right-wingers who are just better at affecting the mask of civility, or if they are actual people who are like fully in the cult of civility, where like civility is the only thing that matters. But basically, whether they're lying to you or lying to themselves about the fact that they serve a right-wing cause. But the fact that they feel the need to tell the lie at all does cause the open hardliners to devour them the moment their power starts to solidify, right? Like the thing we saw happen to her was definitely real. I just she doesn't Maybe she exists just to impart that. And again, there's a message with like very much the fucking political cartoon labels on it, making it really obvious what's going on. But it doesn't, it doesn't feel to me like it has much of a place in this narrative. Cause like Kemp and the hardliners and whatever, it didn't do anything. You could lift all of the Helene and Kemp and Havenage stuff out of this story and nothing about it changes. I don't know. Maybe it looks way different if you blow off Peak or something, or you try to become friends with Helene quickly. I don't know. It's very strange. It seems very strange to me the way it's constructed. Anyway, I don't know that I have a lot more of value to say here. And also, it seems like, never mind. I was going to say, it seems like the music has ended. It is sort of like ushering us out. That is going to be it for us for Citizen Sleeper. I enjoyed coming back to this game for a second playthrough. I do feel like we saw pretty much all the base game stuff in the first playthrough, though, because you can. And yeah, I don't know that. I'm not super positive on these DLC episodes. Anyway, we're leaving. That's it. Thank you all so much for watching. When you come back next week, we're going to be picking I Was a Teenage Exocolonist back up to finish our second, to start, and then hopefully eventually finish our second run through of that. And I guess we'll see if my feelings on that turn the same way. It'll be kind of an interesting comparison, I guess. So yeah, come back for that. The game is bright and shiny and very fun. And we'll see you then.